This is World News coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Maritime, and these are your top stories for tonight. Following strikes on several energy facilities in the Gulf, Iran vows a stronger response to any further attacks on its energy infrastructure. Qatar says Iran's claim that it is targeting US bases is unfounded, and Saudi Arabia affirms its right to take any necessary measures. On the 20th day of the confrontation, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard announces targeting dozens of Zionist military sites. Entire family killed in U.S. Zionist attacks south of Tehran, and the U.S. military denies any specific time frame for ending the war with Iran. In international reactions, Turkey holds the Zionist entity fully responsible for the outbreak of war in the Middle East. Germany welcomes Trump's signals of readiness to end the fighting in Iran, and Spain emphasizes the need for the European Union to oppose a unilateral war. Hello and welcome back to the details. Iran warned it will destroy regional fuel infrastructure if its energy sites are attacked again during the war with the US and the Zionist entity. It said targeting its facilities was a grave mistake, that retaliation is ongoing, and that further attacks will trigger even more severe strikes on US, Zionist, and allied energy infrastructure.
We warned the enemy. You made a big mistake in attacking energy infrastructure in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and our response is ongoing and not over yet. If it's repeated again, the next attacks on the energy infrastructure of you and your allies won't stop until total destruction, and our response will be much harder than tonight's attacks.
The spokesperson for Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters added that Iran's Revolutionary Guard naval forces destroyed key targets at Al-Minhad, Al-Dafra, and Al-Ubaid bases.
Navy forces of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in resuming Operation True Promise 4 and its 63rd wave destroyed key targets in Al-Minhad and Al-Dafra-based Al-Ubaid, a helicopter base of American terrorists, and Mina Salman base, the site for 5th Fleet of American terrorists. In these mixed missile drones operations, the building where commanders are stationed, fuel depots and soils of equipment of Al-Minhad base were effectively impacted.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard said it struck the Haifa refinery in the occupied Palestinian territories using a missile system deployed for the first time. Fars News, citing the IRGC, added that both the Haifa and Ashdod refineries were targeted with the Nasrallah missile system. And the CEO of Qatar Energy, Saad Al-Kaabi, said an Iranian attack damaged facilities responsible for 17% of the company's LNG export capacity. With repairs expected to take 3 to 5 years, Al-Kaabi told Reuters the company could lose 12.8 million tons annually over that period, about 17% of Qatar's LNG exports, and may declare force majeure on the long-term supply contracts to countries including Italy, Belgium, South Korea, and China. And Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani condemned the Iranian attacks, calling for an immediate halt and warning of dangerous regional escalation. Speaking alongside Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan in Doha, he said targeting US bases is unjustified and warned that any strike on Ras Laffan energy facilities would impact global supplies.
There are unfortunately continuous Iranian claims that the attacks are attacks on US assets or US bases in Qatar and the region. We reject this claim, which cannot be accepted under any circumstance. The biggest proof of this is that the attack which happened yesterday was an attack on a Qatari natural gas facility, which is a source of income for the Qatari people, but not just for the Qatari people. What they did yesterday also impacted the millions of people who Qatar is helping.
US President Donald Trump said Washington was not aware of Israel's strike on an Iranian facility. In a post on Truth Social, Trump added that Israel would not carry out further attacks on the key South Pars field unless Iran targets Qatar, warning that in such a case the US would respond with unprecedented force. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry said Iran's continued violation of good neighborly principles has eroded regional trust. Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan added that Iran's attacks on Gulf states will bring it no gains, stressing that Saudi Arabia reserves the right to take necessary measures, and warning that escalation will be met with escalation.
Will backfire politically, will backfire, I believe, morally, and certainly, as we have stated quite clearly, we have reserved the right to take military actions if deemed necessary. And if the time comes, the leadership of the kingdom will take the necessary decision. We will not shy away from protecting our country and our economic resources.
Saudi Arabia said it intercepted and destroyed several drones in the Riyadh and eastern regions. The Defense Ministry spokesperson said 6 drones were intercepted, with one falling on the Samref refinery, and also confirmed the destruction of a ballistic missile fired toward Yanbu port. Iraqi Hezbollah brigades pledged a 5-day halt on attacks against the U.S. embassy in Baghdad under specific conditions. Security official Abu Mujahid al-Asaf said Israel must stop displacing and bombing southern Beirut, avoid striking residential areas in Baghdad and other provinces, and withdraw CIA personnel. He warned that failure to comply would trigger direct and intensified attacks. A British maritime agency reported that a ship was hit by an unknown projectile near the UAE coast close to the Strait of Hormuz, causing a fire on board. The UK's Maritime Trade Operations said the incident occurred Wednesday at 11 p.m. GMT near the port of Khor Fakkan in the Gulf of Oman. And the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington may lift sanctions on Iranian oil stored in tankers amid rising energy prices due to the Middle East war. He also indicated the U.S. might release additional oil from its strategic reserves. Recently, the U.S. temporarily allowed the sale of sanctioned Russian oil at sea. An Iranian lawmaker said Tehran is considering a proposal to impose transit fees on ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. The plan would require countries using the strait for shipping energy and food supplies to pay tariffs, potentially up to 10%, with expected annual revenues of around $73 billion. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called for regional vigilance and coordination to counter what he described as destabilizing and escalatory actions by the U.S. and Israel. According to Iranian media, he made the remarks during separate phone talks with counterparts in Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan, stating that recent U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iranian infrastructure aim to heighten tensions, and emphasizing that Iran will fully defend its sovereignty and security. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged the U.S. and Israel to end the war with Iran before it spirals out of control, warning of catastrophic impacts on civilians and the global economy. Speaking at an EU summit in Brussels, he also called on Iran to stop attacking its neighbors, noting they are not parties to the conflict.
First, to the United States and to Israel. It's high time to end this war. that is risking to get completely out of control, causing immense suffering on civilians, and with propagation around the global economy that is really dramatic, with potential tragic consequences.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced the 64th wave of Operation Promise True 4, targeting central sites in occupied Palestine and the Fifth Fleet with precision. The IRGC said the strikes hit troop concentrations, fuel stations, refineries, and key cities, forcing residents to stay in shelters for hours, and vowed that operations will continue until objectives are achieved. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said its forces struck 80 sites and other military support positions in southern and central occupied Palestine. The IRGC added that these attacks are part of the 63rd wave of Operation Promise True 4, achieving their objectives with precision using multi-warhead missile systems and attack drones. Fars news agency reported that an entire family was killed in a U.S.-Israeli strike on a residential building south of Tehran. The agency said the attack targeted civilians, leaving multiple dead and injured, including an infant. Also, Iran's Revolutionary Guard intelligence said it has arrested 178 agents working for what it called a U.S.-Israeli enemy since the start of the war. The detainees were reportedly providing locations of Red Crescent centers and checkpoints for attacks, and authorities seized military equipment, technology, and weapons from them. U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. will not send troops anywhere in the world. Speaking from the White House, he added that U.S. is defending the Strait of Hormuz on behalf of everyone and has told Netanyahu not to attack energy fields.
Well, he's under investigation because he's building a building for hundreds. No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops, and we will do whatever is necessary to keep the price as low. I actually thought when I did this, look, the Dow just hit 50,000 a couple of weeks ago. They said that couldn't happen for 4 years. It wouldn't happen in my term. It's such an outrageous thing because I said it would happen.
U.S. President Donald Trump acknowledged that Washington needs more funds to support the war on Iran. Speaking from the White House, he said additional financing is required for many reasons, responding to reports that the Pentagon seeks $200 billion for the conflict.
Contractor's a very rich man. Well, we're asking for a lot of reasons beyond even what we're talking about in Iran. This is a very volatile world, and the military equipment, the power of some of this weaponry is unthinkable. You don't even want to know about it. Oh, you could end this thing in 2 seconds if you wanted to, but we are being very judicious. But we want to do. Don't forget, Biden gave away. I rebuilt the military in my first term. Biden gave away so stupidly to Afghanistan a lot. He didn't want to move it. He was too lazy, too stupid to move it. But it was a very small amount. It was a lot, but it was very small relative to what I purchased and what I built.
And the Pentagon said there is no set timeline to end the ongoing U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, and now in its third week. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth noted that President Trump will decide when the war stops, adding that Washington has achieved its operational objectives so far.
What I heard through tears, through hugs, through strength, and through unbreakable resolve was the same from family after family. They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this.
U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Quayle said Washington is continuing to target Iran's capabilities, aiming to destroy its ammunition depots and naval assets. He added that 90% or 90 Iranian infrastructure targets were struck last Friday.
Our objectives, given directly from our America First president, remain exactly what they were on day one. These are not the media's objectives, not Iran's objectives, not new objectives, our objectives, unchanged, on target, and on plan. Destroy missiles, launchers, and Iran's defense industrial base so they cannot rebuild, destroy their navy, and Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. Our objectives.
And Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said Israel is the main instigator of the war on Iran alongside the U.S., speaking at a press conference with Qatar's foreign minister in Doha. He added that Iran has a historic responsibility not to attack regional countries and that Turkey is in contact with both Washington and Tehran to understand their positions while continuing efforts to end the conflict. Germany welcomed what it described as signals from U.S. President Donald Trump that the fighting in Iran could end. Ahead of the EU summit in Brussels, Chancellor Friedrich Merz expressed gratitude for Trump's indication of willingness to stop the conflict and reaffirmed Europe's readiness to help establish peace in the Middle East once hostilities cease.
This morning we are seeing energy prices rising sharply across Europe and around the world. The main cause of this, of course, lies in developments in the Middle East. We will also be discussing this in detail. I want us to send a clear signal that we are ready to help. But for that to happen, the fighting must cease. I'm particularly grateful that the US President sent a signal last night that he is also prepared to bring the hostilities to an end.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said U.S. actions on Iran are crucial for European and Middle Eastern security. Speaking in Norway, he reaffirmed the alliance's agreement to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities, warning that such developments would pose a direct threat to the entire Middle East and Europe.
In my contacts with allies all over NATO territory, what I'm sensing and hearing is that we all agree, as we always did, that it was crucial for Iran not to get its hands on a nuclear capability, a ballistic missile capability, and what the US is doing at the moment is degrading that capability of Iran, and I think that's very important. This is important for European security, for the Middle East. It is vital for Israel itself. A nuclear Iran would potentially have been a direct threat to the future of Israel, but again, to the whole Middle East and to Europe.
Also, Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez stressed that the EU must oppose what he called a unilateral war, rejecting US-Israeli strikes on Iran. In a speech derived on Thursday, he said the conflict is not Spain's war and Madrid was not informed, urging EU countries to adopt an independent, sovereign approach, prioritizing diplomacy over military escalation in the Middle East. Lebanon's health ministry reported that casualties from the Israeli attacks on the country have risen to 1,001 dead and 2,584 injured between March the 2nd and 19th. The Daily Report Thursday noted 33 deaths in the past 24 hours and highlighted an increase in fatalities among healthcare workers since the attack resumed. Algerian President Mr. Abdelnajid Tebboune extended his heartfelt congratulations to the Algerian people on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr that marks the end of the holy fasting month of Ramadan. In his message, President Tebboune praised the favorable conditions that strengthen solidarity and cooperation during Ramadan and wished that the Eid al-Fitr holiday brings goodness, happiness and the stability to all nations and the Muslim community around the world.
والهناء والاستقرار. أيتها المواطنات، أيها المواطنون، يسعدني أن أتوجه إليكم بالتهاني الخالصة بمناسبة حلول عيد الفطر المبارك، أعاده الله علينا وعلى بلادنا وسائر المسلمين بالخير والهناء والاستقرار. كما أتوجه بالشكر الجزيل إلى كل من ساهم في تهيئة وتوفير الظروف الملائمة لتعزيز روح التضامن والتعاون في مجتمعنا طيلة الشهر الفضيل، لما لمسناه من طمأنينة بعثت في قلوبنا روحانية هذا الشهر الكريم، سائلين الله تعالى دوام نعمته على الجزائر المحروسة والمسقية بدماء شهدائنا الأبرار.
President Tebboune also extended his congratulations to the national community established abroad and our brothers in Muslim countries, notably in wounded Gaza and the West Bank.
كما أزف تهاني الخالصة إلى أبناء جاليتنا في الخارج، مؤكدا وقوف بلدهم الأم على الدوام إلى جانبهم، وخصوصا في ظل ما يعيشه الشرق الأوسط من وضع مأساوي، راجيا من الله عز وجل العودة في أقرب وقت للوضع الطبيعي، بما يسهم في إحلال الأمن والسلم في كل الدول الشقيقة في المنطقة، وفي أولى القبلتين والثالث الحرمين، وفي غزة والضفة الجريحتين. عيدكم مبارك وكل عام وأنتم بخير. المجد والخلود لشهدائنا الأبرار. تحيا الجزائر حرة سيدة أبية، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Thank you for watching our program, and we'll continue our coverage in a few moments.